Hey, how's everybody doing? Sorry I've been away for a bit of time here, but I'm back. And I decided today to talk about something different other than the Beatles. Now, next month, Mac is releasing deluxe editions of Tug of War and Pipes of Peace, so we're going to have some things to talk about as far as Beatles. But other than the Beatles are my huge obsession. They're my huge obsession. They got me into everything else because of the Beatles. But I have obsessions under the Beatles as well. I'd have to say that would be Zeppelin, Floyd, The Who, the Beach Boys, because of Brian Wilson, I have to say that, and Bob Dylan. So Zeppelin, Floyd, The Who, Hendrix, Beach Boys, and Dylan are obsessions of mine. And the Monkees. But we're going to get into another thing about the Monkees in a few videos here, because I'm going to talk about my love of the Monkees as well. That's a different type of obsession, but an obsession nonetheless. But now that the project is completed, I want to talk about the Zeppelin Remasters, the reissues that came out, that started coming out last year and were completed this year. Last year, I believe it was in spring, we had the releases of the first 3 Zeppelin albums. Zeppelin 1, 2, and 3, obviously. Then I believe in the wintertime it was Untitled. That's the proper name for the 4th album. And Houses of the Holy. Then in March we had Physical Graffiti. And it was just completed in just this past month, in August, with Presence, In Through the Outdoor, and Coda. Now, I have to tell you, I got them all on CD. All of them on CD here. I got the deluxe editions, the 2-disc editions on CD. As you can see, all of them there. Houses of the Holy, Physical Graffiti, Presence, In Through the Outdoor, and Coda. Zeppelin is probably number 2 in my obsessions. Of course, with the exception of the Beatles, all my other obsessions could flop places at any time. But they're all pretty neck and neck with each other. Definitely neck and neck with each other. Not only did I buy the deluxe editions on CD, I did buy the new editions on vinyl. And I just bought the regular editions on vinyl. I did not buy the deluxe editions on vinyl. Because if I'm going to buy them on vinyl, I kind of want to keep what was originally there intact. Now, I have to tell you, the reissue series where Jimmy Page had remastered these all across the board, not just for CD, but for vinyl and streaming and iTunes. It's a class act job from beginning to end. Now, when it comes to the CDs, I have to tell you, the Beatles set a precedent with the 2009 stereo and mono remasters, where on the stereo editions, the biggest thing in the CD age was what was called the loudness wars. Everybody was trying to make the CDs louder and louder and louder, and they were heavily peak limited. What the Beatles remasters did in 2009 was use it, but sparingly. Just use it to maybe beef it up a bit where it needed to be, but not where it's overly loud and there's no dynamic range. Because the problem with peak limiting is you lose the dynamic range. Now, Jimmy Page took that to heart. And the CDs are the best these CDs have ever sounded. I mean, Zeppelin 4 or Untitled is really, when Misty Mountain Hop starts, it's just down, and John Bonham comes in with his lick, and the whole band kicks in. It is just wow. The bonus stuff on them is okay. It's good to hear alternate versions or early stages of these things, and I have them and I play them, and they're good. I'm happy that Coda, which was an album of outtakes anyways, does have on the bonus CD one of my favorite Zeppelin songs, which was a B-side. Hey, hey, what can I say? I want to tell you about the girl I love. You know the song. And I'm glad that's on there, because I always felt that should have been on Coda and not just relegated to a B-side. Now, the vinyl editions. Now, some people say that they were digitally sourced, just like the Beatles stereo vinyl was in 2012. I've said on my last video that I've come to like the new Beatles vinyl. The issue that people had with them originally, other than the purists with the digital source, was the fact that people that bought the box sets had major errors done to them. Like the hole being punched in the wrong area, or big chips in the record, and stuff like that, or coming massively warped. Luckily, I didn't buy the box set of that. And with the exception of a minor flaw on the White Album, I've come to like them now. There's no comparison to the mono that comes from analog to analog. I don't know what Jimmy Page did on the vinyl editions of these. Let me just hold up my favorite Zeppelin album right now. My favorite Zeppelin album was always Houses of the Holy. And I had an original pressing of this thing. One of the albums that didn't survive the move from Chicago. But I did have my original CD, which I no longer have, because I have the remastered one. But anyways, Houses of the Holy, when on Jamaica, just the vinyl editions. Again, I don't know if they were sourced digitally, but they run circles around any original pressing of these things. They got more information on these grooves than you got on the original editions. Zeppelin 2. Whole Lot of Love. Zeppelin 2. The famous story of Zeppelin 2 was Bob Ludwig did the first pressing and the mastering job. He was advised by engineer Eddie Kramer to master it hot. He mastered it hot, did what they said, heavy bass, heavy drums, and test pressings went out, they were fine, but if you had a cheap turntable with a cheap needle, your needle jumped, or there was heavy distortion. Ahmet Ertegun heard it because his daughter supposedly had a copy of it, and he said, nah. So he took the tapes back and remastered them at Atlantic in New York, and practically took all the bass out. So immediately those first editions were recalled, and then you had editions that you practically see in every used record store now. Trying to get your hands on a first Bob Ludwig pressing of Zeppelin 2 is hard. Some of them on eBay are going for $200, $300, $400. I'm hoping I get lucky one day and find one in a used record store bin for $10 because nobody knew what they had. But this, I never heard the Ludwig edition, the Bob Ludwig Master. This one runs circles around anything I ever heard. And in fact, there's a couple people on some of the vinyl boards that have said this is better than the Ludwig edition. Of course, there were that created a back and forth between people on one of the vinyl groups I belong to. But never having heard the Ludwig edition, and when Whole Lot of Love kicks in, your speakers are just like are distorting in a good way. You want them to distort. You want to be like, am I about to blow my speakers on this thing? It is like you are in a small club hearing this music. And again, the CD does the same trick. So I go back and forth on the new vinyl editions and the new CDs of the Zeppelin Remasters. And I got to tell you, if you were hemming and hawing about getting these, go ahead and get them. I mean, the vinyl is available in traditional editions, just the album, but they also have the deluxe editions on vinyl as well, the way they are on the CD. They also have the deluxe editions and regular CDs as well, all remastered if you don't want the bonus tracks. And they also come in a box set that has the vinyl, the CD, and the bonus discs for each of them in box sets. So you have multiple ways of getting these. Highly recommend the new Zeppelin Remasters. Highly recommend them. That's all I can say. This is a great overview. I'm not going to go in depth with each of the individual albums because as a whole, Jimmy Page did something right. Did awesome work, guys. Awesome work on these Zeppelin reissues. And that's that on this one. A couple videos I have coming up here. I'll be talking about my obsession with the Monkees, like I said, and I'm going to be talking about the Hendrix reissues as well. And next month, I hope you all pre-ordered your copies of Tug of War and Pipes of Peace by Macca. We're going to be talking about that as well when that comes out. So some exciting things happening here as far as reissues.